Gabrielle Sinacola, and she owns Luminaria Marketing. She's going to be talking about all things SEO, so how to evaluate, optimize, and create content with purpose. And she's going to condense a lot of value into less than an hour. So we promise we'll be done at a reasonable time. And she's even going to walk us through a demo and have a giveaway here at the end of the event. So we are really excited to have connected with Gabrielle. She has a very cool background, and I'm just really happy to be sharing in her knowledge and being here to help and host with all of you. So feel free to engage and ask any questions throughout the event in the chat box, or even jump in and ask Gabrielle some questions yourself. And we are also going to Facebook Live, just so everyone that's on camera is aware of that, into our member group. But with that, I will let Gabrielle take it away.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm so excited to be here. I connected with Rhiannon a few weeks ago, and we had the pleasure of meeting, and she invited me to speak here with you all. And so I'm so excited to share some of my marketing knowledge with you, and hopefully you find it valuable. And like Julia said, I'm going to hopefully get you through a demo here. So bear with me as I switch screens mid-presentation. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So hopefully you can see the slides that I'm on right now. But what we're going to be going through is the foundations of digital marketing. And that includes things like SEO and content, which we will get into. But what I'm hoping that you take away from this presentation today are 5 actionable SEO elements that you can check on your website, which we're going to go through a couple of those together. And I'm really focusing on using only free tools to make sure that it is accessible for whatever stage your business is at. And then we're going to talk about how to evaluate a content channel for your business so that you're really getting results with all of your efforts in marketing and putting content online. And then how to optimize your content strategy by repurposing that content to really maximize your efforts. And then I also want to go into what's next. So once you have all of these things in place for your business, how can you grow after that? So I just want to start with what is content marketing. Maybe you're not familiar with the terms, or you just need a refresher, but it's attracting, retaining a target audience by consistently creating relevant content that provides value. So content marketing has the specific intent of changing or enhancing a consumer's behavior. And usually that is to drive something like a purchase, or however you would categorize a conversion for your business. That could be submitting contact information, or usually a purchase for an e-commerce business. But content marketing is really an ongoing process that you would integrate into your overall marketing strategy. And it is a completely organic channel of marketing, so it's not paid. So it is a great one to explore for your business, especially in the early stages. And then as you grow, you can grow your content marketing as well. So what constitutes content? There are lots of different forms of content marketing. You may know of quite a few of them, like blog posts, social media posts, a podcast, or YouTube videos. But it also includes things like free tools, email marketing, any news or industry reports that you might publish. And so content encompasses all of these different verticals. And so you can choose what matches your business and your target customer best. And so as we jump into SEO in the next few slides, I want you to understand really where it fits within content marketing. And so content marketing and SEO go hand in hand. SEO is going to outline the requirements that your content marketing is going to fulfill. And so think of SEO as like a checklist that when you're writing a blog post or creating a report or other content online, you want to make sure that you're checking off all of those different SEO elements with your content. So I also want to address one common misconception about content marketing and marketing online is that you probably feel like you want to jump right into creating content for your business and then just pray that those results are going to follow. And I really want to stress that that's not the right way to go about this. You want to make sure that you're starting off with a strong SEO foundation and a clear strategy that you can use to create repeatable and scalable results with your content marketing. So we've talked a little bit about SEO, but what really is SEO? And it stands for search engine optimization. And so that encompasses both the technical and creative sides to your website and to your online presence that are geared towards goals of improving your rankings in the search engine, driving targeted website traffic, and then also just increasing general brand awareness. And SEO is really the health of your website in appearing in search engine results, most commonly in Google results for your target customer. And so why is SEO important? It sounds kind of like this far off thing or like this very technical element to your website and to your digital presence, but it's really the foundation for driving traffic to your website. So you don't want to drive traffic or customers to a poorly optimized site. And I want to give you kind of an analogy. If we look at this bucket and it's got all these holes in it, and I'm going to pour water into this bucket, and my goal is to fill up the bucket with water. But as I pour more water in, more water is just going to leak out of these holes. And so I'm not ever able to properly reach my goal. Similarly with your website is this bucket. And as you're posting content, interacting on social media, driving people to your website, what they're really doing is just falling out through these holes, and you're never going to get them to your goal. Maybe that's a sale or a purchase, whatever your conversion is, because of these holes. And so if you have poor SEO, that's what these holes are. And before we can drive traffic to our website, we want to make sure that we patch up those holes. We want to make sure that it's in good standing so that it can serve the purpose that we want it to. Another example, if you just need another visualization, is think of it like an open house. If you're walking potential clients through the house on the left, you're probably not putting your best foot forward. You're not making a good impression. When they arrive, they're not getting the value that you want them to from this house or from your website. And so they're less likely to make a purchase or convert into a customer. Whereas when you have your house nicely staged, like on the right, clients walk in and they see the value, they see the potential, they understand what you're providing them, and they are more likely to make that purchase. And so we want to move from the left to the right with our websites, and we're going to do that with SEO. So SEO is putting your best foot forward. And before you consider other types of content marketing like a blog, to strategy to drive traffic to your website, you want it to be in good standing. Once we have that in place, then we can explore things like blog SEO, social media marketing, other tactics to drive people to your site. So I want to go over 5 tactical elements that you can check on your website right now. And I want to do this with you. And so if you have a business website or a website that you manage, you can do this alongside me. And so while I go through these 5 elements, if you want to go ahead and download the Screaming Frog SEO website crawler, it's a free software that you can use to crawl your website and identify the things that we're going to go over and also how to fix them. So if you want to do that right now, it'll give you time to get it installed on your computer while I keep talking. And then I also recommend setting up tools like Google Analytics and Google Search Console that are going to help you track the performance of your website and will alert you when issues arise that you can address those immediately and it won't hurt your site. And those are also free, but we won't need them for the few things I'm going to talk about right now. So jumping right into the first SEO element is broken links. So if you have any 400 or 500 level status errors, which the Screaming Frog call is going to show us, you might be familiar with one of them. A 404 error is page not found. You don't want any of these. It's basically a red flag on your site when Google goes to decide whether or not to show your pages in search results. If your website has any of these errors on it, it's basically telling Google that there's a problem here. This page is probably not good, even if it's not the one with an error. And so those are of highest priority. We want to fix those immediately. Number 2 is to submit your sitemap to Google Search Console. Again, this is totally free and your site already has one. It's going to tell Google's bot or the crawler how exactly to organize your pages and index them in those search results. So it's telling Google what's on that page, where it belongs within your website, but also within the internet, and how to get to it. And so if you use a website builder, my website's on Squarespace, there should be an option for you to just download it. It should automatically create it as you build your website, but you should also be able to find it if you just type in your domain and then do /sitemap.xml. You can see what it looks like. It's kind of just a really long list. It looks a little funny, but you can actually just upload that, that URL here, the yourdomain.com/sitemap.xml. That's what you're going to type into Google Search Console. And then you're telling Google, go crawl my site, index my pages, send people from search traffic to my website. So you're really just giving them a map of your site, exactly what it sounds like, so that they know how to drive people to your website and why it's relevant for certain search results. Number 3 is unique page titles and meta descriptions. So we're getting into a few more technical elements, but we'll look at this in the Screaming Frog Audit also. They have their own columns and it'll be really easy to just identify these. But these are essentially the two elements that are showing up about your website in the search results. So the page title is going to be that hyperlinked text that someone actually will click on to visit your page. Sometimes you can set it different from the SEO title versus the actual heading on your page. And the reason that you would want to do this is to optimize the page title for Google, but then also keep the tone on your website. And so maybe at the top of your contact us page, you have some really catchy phrase that speaks specifically to your target audience, but it doesn't really work for SEO. So you should have the option to set a separate SEO title that will help you boost your rankings. And so two things to keep in mind when you're looking at page titles. You want them to be clear and concise. You only have between 50 and 60 characters before it gets cut off. And you want to make sure that you contribute to what the value of that page would be and why someone should click on it and visit your website. And then you also want to include your most important keywords in your page title, because these are one of the elements that Google's going to look at first to decide what that page is about and if it should show it in the search results. And then the second thing that you're going to see in the search result is the meta description. So that's that little paragraph under the page title that kind of gives a preview of the text that will be on that site. And so it acts for you as an organic advertisement that's supposed to entice people to click on your site. So you really want to make sure that in your meta description, you're using your keyword. It will come up bolded if it matches the search term that a user typed in. And it has strong messaging and a clear call to action so that you're really portraying what the value of that page could be and compelling people to click on your link. And then again, a meta description should be between 70 to 160 characters. That includes spaces so that you can get your value across, but also make sure that it's not cut off so that all the important information should be within those first 160 characters.
Hey, Gabrielle, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Just to clarify for others too, for the meta description, is that like if you were to Google the brief description that pops up underneath the main search, or is that actually on when you click on the website?
No, it will be, you can set the meta description separately usually, but it's what pops up right under the hyperlink in the Google search results.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure.
No, great question. Actually, Google will automatically pull, I believe, the first like couple sentences off your page and then like cut it off so you have the ellipses after it. But if you have like a fun intro or, maybe the first few sentences on your page are actually just unrelated to the content that's below it, then it's really not going to match. So you do want to make sure you go in and set the meta description separately.
Okay. And then what was the other website that you asked or had people download, just so we can repeat that for the chat?
Yeah, it's Screaming Frog SEO Spider. I can go back really quick. It has this little logo.
I'll type it in here.
Dawn did put it.
Yeah, I added that already, Julia.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
I got the link for SEO Spider, so we're good there.
Awesome. It shouldn't take too long to download. And then if you have a shorter site, it'll be pretty easy to crawl. But I did want to give the opportunity, if people want to follow along, it'll be really useful to go through that spreadsheet with me when we get to that part. But yes, great questions. I appreciate you speaking up for those. And then number 4, which we're also going to look at a little bit, is keyword targeting. So as I mentioned, you want to make sure that these are in the page title and the meta description so that they come up in the correct search results. But first, you need to really think about what are your main keywords. So how do you identify your business, your industry, your product or service, and what are people looking for that you want your site to be coming up for? And then once you have those main keywords, you want to think about some secondary, or they're also called long tail keywords. These are usually 4 or more words, and they have a lower search volume, but they're also much lower competition. And they have a higher intent to buy. So people who are using more exact search terms, usually longer search terms, are looking for something specific. And usually when someone is really targeted in their search, it means that they're more serious about creating a purchase. And so you want to make sure that you're capturing those in addition to working towards some of those more competitive industry keywords. And so then just a quick note about where these should be on your site. It should be throughout your website, especially in some of those SEO elements we talked about, the title tags, the meta description, and then other places when you get into more advanced on-site SEO, like image alternate text and your URLs of pages in the blog and other supplementary pages. And then the last thing is internal linking. And so an internal link is a link between pages on your own domain. So usually this looks like a button or a hyperlink that will transfer you between pages on the same website. And the reason for this is Google ranks pages based on what I'm going to call link juice. So how many links does that page have from other pages? And internal linking adds to your link juice, even though it's from the same domain. So Google will weight a link from a different domain more heavily than it will from the same domain, but both of them do add into your link juice. And so before you get into more advanced tactics of link building from other sites, you do want to make sure that you are maximizing the link juice on your own site. And so you can do that by internal linking. This also plays into increasing your user experience. So the more places that you have for a user to convert or take the desired action or get to the next place of value that you're providing, the easier it will be for them to stay on your site, to consume your content, and to hopefully become closer to completing that purchase. So here is a recap of those 5 elements. If you want to take a screenshot of these, now would be your chance to do so. But when I go into the Screaming Frog audit, we are going to look at number 1. So we're going to look for broken links. I'm going to show you how to identify those. And then also number 3, the page titles and the meta descriptions. And then within those page titles and meta descriptions, you can look for number 4, keyword targeting, to make sure that you've included those in both of those different places. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to another screen. So hopefully you can see my Screaming Frog now. And if you want to go ahead and open this up with me, we're just going to go right up here into the search bar and type in your domain. So I'm going to type in my website and I'm going to hit start. So the crawl is going to take a couple of minutes, depending on how many pages you have. It shouldn't take too long. And it should index all of your pages. So you just want to make sure that search results did come up here. And if you're comfortable with it, you can do it right here in Screaming Frog, but I like to manipulate the data a little bit and highlight things so that I know what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to make sure I'm on the internal tab here, and then I'm going to go ahead and export. And I'm going to open up that spreadsheet. And that's where we're going to do the rest of this data. So if you're doing this with me, it should look like this when you export it. So we have all of the different elements up here at the top. In this first column is the URL of your page. And so this is what we're going to keep coming back to. I'm just going to go ahead and freeze that so that as we move through different columns, we can see it. And remember that first element we talked about were the response codes. And so we're going to go here into column C and look at the status code. So I'm going to go sort by descending so that we can have the big numbers at the top, because remember, we're looking for 400 or 500 level errors. And so you can see I have a 404 error. I created one so that we have something to look at today. But I'm going to go ahead and highlight that in red. So this is me letting myself know that I need to go through and fix this. Right now I have a page that people can access. The link is active, but it doesn't give them any content. It's a page that doesn't exist. So I want to go back and make sure that I redirect this URL or delete that page and make sure that I also delete that URL. So a couple ways to fix this are what these are down here, 301s. These are redirected pages. Essentially, I've created a new page that has either the same content or I've replaced that page. And so this URL is still active. It exists somewhere on the internet. While it's kind of a pain to go back and find it, instead what I did was say, this URL now takes you to a different page. And so you can institute a redirect. It should be very simple on whatever website platform you use. There should be a spot somewhere to do a redirect. And basically you're just going to say this URL now points to this URL. So anyone who tries to visit this page will be redirected to a page that does exist. So 301s are fine. Any 400 or 500 level errors, you do want to address those as soon as possible. So that was number 1. Then we're going to go over here to column G, and we're looking at the titles. So I want to look for three things in my title. I want to look at the length. I want to make sure it's not too long or too short. And then I also want to look for keywords. So I'm going to go here to column H, and I'm going to sort by the length. So first I'm going to start with ones that might be too long. So a title tag should be between 50 to 60 characters. After that, it just gets cut off. And so it's really up to you to make that decision whether these are actually too long. So I'm going to highlight them in yellow just so that I can easily see them. And then I'm just going to kind of scroll down here. So the way my website is set up, it auto appends my main keyword and then my company name. So if it were to get cut off, these are the things that are going to get cut off from it. And so really, I just get to decide, do I want those to be cut off or do I want to shorten this URL? So in this case, it's really just the keyword and the company name that would be cut off. And those aren't super relevant to whether or not this blog post is providing value to someone who is visiting that site. And so I've made the decision that that is fine. I'm okay if the keyword gets cut off. Google can still see it when it goes to index my page, but someone who is looking at the search results can't see it. That's okay with me. If, however, like the title of your blog post is too long and it's getting cut off like here, you're not really getting all of the value from what this post is about. And so that's something that you just want to look at each of these different titles and see whether or not the value is being provided in those first 60 characters. And then similarly, I'm going to sort the other way to see any missing titles. So a missing title is almost just as bad. You want to make sure that each of your pages has a unique title and meta description, because as I mentioned, Google is looking at these first before the content of your page to decide whether or not to list you as a search result. So we want to make sure that we filled out these fields. So as I look at these that have a 0 or are below 50, I'm going to see most of them are redirected pages, so that's okay. One of them is a page that's not accessible, so it's like an admin page. That is also fine. So then I'm going to go down here, and I see that these ones that are shorter than 50 are some of my main pages, where the title is just the name of that page. And so I've made the decision that that is fine for my website. If these are, for example, blog pages or other pages that you've created for a very specific purpose, and you don't feel like it's conveying the value in a shorter title tag, then that may be something you want to explore changing or extending to make sure that you can convey all the value of that page as quickly as possible in those first few characters. So that is the title tag. Again, you can scroll through these, and this is where you're going to check for your keywords. And so I know that my main keyword is automatically appended, but in some things like blog posts, which are specifically targeting a different keyword, one of those secondary or long tail keywords, I want to make sure that I've included them in the title tag in as close to the beginning as possible, but in those first 60 characters for sure. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the meta description. So we're going to do almost the same thing with the meta description. I'm looking here at column J, and then I'm going to sort by column K, so the length. I want to look at meta descriptions that are too long first. So we're looking here for anything over 160. We can see there's only one, and it's only about 4 characters over. So I would just look at that and see what is it that is making it long. It came up with a little bit of a weird format, so that might be the issue. But we can just see, what is the meta description? Is it providing value? Did I set it myself, or was it just automatically pulled from the page? And if you didn't set the meta descriptions, then I would advise going through these one by one and really just reading them, because when I first started with my website, I had forgotten to go back in the settings and set these, and then a lot of them were empty, and then the rest of them, it was pulling kind of random text from the website. So you do want to check these, because this is what someone is using to decide whether or not to visit that page.
And Gabrielle, just for clarification, you would actually edit that like in your Squarespace site, right? This is more engine showing you where it stands.
Correct. So a really easy way that I do is I'll just make another column, so that I would maybe make this like title fixes. And then I would just go here, and it's easy for me to like see side by side what I want to change it to. And then when I made all those fixes in this column, I would just like go open up my website. So in Squarespace, go to that page, find the meta description field, and then I can just copy and paste. And I already know it's the right amount of characters. It has my keyword. It conveys the point of this page. And I can see all the pages that I need to fix right here in the spreadsheet. But yes, you will have to go into the back end of your website to actually make this change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then same thing with the meta description. So if you also sort it by ascending, so finding our shortest ones. Again, the same thing applies. So redirected pages, I'm not too worried about. But then we get down here and you can see these pages don't have a meta description. And so while the title, it was fine to be shorter on some of those main pages, you do want to have a meta description on those main pages because you never know what that page might be popping up for. So if it's appearing for one of my more highly targeted keywords like digital marketing agency, I want to make sure I'm providing value for someone to click on that. And so these main pages, some of them are blog tags. And so those ones I won't worry about. But if a page like this one here is a blog page and it's not coming up with a meta description, I would want to make sure that I set that. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight that a different color. So remember that I want to make sure that I fix this meta description. So we're looking for ones that are too long, too short, or they don't exist. And then we want to check for keywords. So again, just scrolling through those, making sure they apply to the page that they're talking about, checking that you set them yourself, and then making sure that you have that keyword in there. So for something like a blog page, what was the value that that blog page was supposed to provide? Can you kind of condense that down into 1 or 2 sentences so that someone understands why they would read that blog? And that's what your meta description is for. So these are all of the things that I usually look for on the Screaming Frog report in the very basics of SEO. The very last thing that you can look for, just as a little extra, I'm going to scroll down here to word count. And so if you're thinking about creating a blog for your website, maybe you have a blog, or maybe you just have other pages that provide a lot of information or a lot of value, and you want to see why they're not performing very well, I suggest doing a Google search of the term that you're hoping to pop up for, and just checking out like the first 2 or 3 search results who have the top ranking, and looking at their word count. So if you write a blog and say it's only 500 words, but you're finding that all of the search results for that word are actually between 2,000 to 2,500, then you would see that people are looking for more value, and that might be an indicator that you need to work on some more in-depth posts, or that your content isn't in-depth enough to be providing that type of value for a term is that competitive. So that's just something else to keep in mind. More as you grow and you are competing for more competitive search terms, you can check out the word count and just see how you compare to those top ranking pages. But the main thing to focus on with this Screaming Frog report is really those status codes and then the title tag and the meta description. So I'm going to jump back to the slides now.
Anyone have any questions? We don't have anything in the chat right now, but I do want to just kind of inquire if anyone, no question's a stupid question is at least my motto today, because this is not my area. But all right, well, anyone can jump in if they feel free, but I just want to take a second. So go ahead, Gabrielle.
No, they're all good. And feel free to just chime in whenever. But so we've talked about SEO now. And remember, that was the foundation for all of our marketing. So now what? What do we do next once we've done these few SEO elements and we know we have them in place? Now we can move on to that content marketing. So how do you decide what channels and strategies to use for your business? And we're going to use this framework, the who, what, where, when, and how. So first you want to look at who. Who are your ideal customers? And when I ask your ideal customer, this is the one persona of someone who will buy your product or service. And so when you're thinking about this, something you could do is put together a buyer persona. So what is the narrative of the person, your target customer, the person that you most want to serve? And you want to answer things like their demographics, their interests, their desires, their challenges, the different channels where they hang out, And then some of your competitors are related companies. And so I'm not going to stop here, but if you do want to take a screenshot of this page and maybe put this together for yourself after this event, I think it's a really useful activity, especially if you've never done it before for your business. But just it really helps you get into the mind of your consumer, and then you can better speak to them, better meet them where they are, and help them get to where you want to take them. Then the next question is what? So what am I trying to accomplish at each part of the funnel? When you understand your goals in the marketing funnel, at the top, you're generating awareness. You want people to know about your company and about your brand and about what you offer. And then we're going to move them down into consideration. So when they're interested in purchasing a product or service similar to what you offer, you want them to think of you in that consideration. And we're going to walk them all the way down through purchase and then loyalty. So how can we take them from figuring out who you are to making a purchase from you and being confident in that purchase? And so if you're still in the brand awareness stage and you're just getting your name out there, you might go with a different strategy than if you're already down here, you have an audience, you have a community, now you're ready to convert them into customers. Where? So this is really looking at those channels. Where are my current and potential customers, and where or who are their influencers? So where are these people hanging out? But not only where are they hanging out, where are they looking for content that you're providing? So while I might hang out on Instagram, I'm not necessarily looking on Instagram when I'm looking for financial advice. And so what I do when I look for financial advice is maybe I'll watch a YouTube video, or maybe I'll search on Google. And so Instagram may not be the best channel to reach them, even though I'm on that channel. My influencers might be on other channels. So I'm looking at reputable financial websites or other financial influencers who have more long form content that they explain. And so that's something to think about depending on the product or service you offer, is what channels will be most useful for reaching your customers. When can you deem the strategy a success? So we want to make sure that all of our efforts are working towards those goals. So what are those leading indicators or KPIs, key performance indicators, and different metrics that you need to be measuring for you to know if all of your hard work is really doing anything. So we want to make sure that we're not just throwing content out there and hoping it performs, that we're actually doing it with a clear strategy, and that what we're doing is working, because when we look at the data, it can really guide us into understanding where we should be contributing more of our attention. And then lastly, how? So how is my competition performing, and where do I have the competitive advantage? So if you feel like you offer a product or service that there's an abundance of other businesses out there, maybe they speak to a different ideal customer, or maybe they have a different strategy or a slightly different product, you want to make sure that you know what your competitive advantage is and that you can really hone in on that, because those will be the customers you can convert most quickest and who will be the most loyal customers. So when we look at this framework altogether, what is the real purpose of these questions? They're here to help you decide which channels to pursue for your company, and then which marketing tactics of those will drive the most impact for you. And so I wanted just to take a few minutes here to let you kind of mull over these questions, think about your ideal customer if you haven't done that before, and really just focus on what your goal is to attract your target audience and convert them into customers. So also, if you have questions, if you want to pop them in the chat or just come off of mute for a couple of minutes here, as we just go through some of these for your business and just think through them. I'm happy to answer those questions, but I just wanted to give some time here to act on it while we're talking about it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So how often should we reevaluate the who, what, where, when, and how?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I would say when you decide what your answers to these are and you put your strategy in place, if you decide that you're only posting a few times a week or even just a few times a month, you're not going to see very quick results within 1 month of time. I don't feel like that's enough time to evaluate a strategy. So if you're posting more frequent, then maybe after 1 month, you want to see, is this working? If you're posting infrequent, maybe you would wait 2 or 3 months to see. But for something like social posts or blog posts, what I do for my own website and for my clients is we actually track weekly metrics. And so we'll look at it each week, but we won't necessarily switch up our strategy every week. So I would say quarterly at the latest, you want to look at how is your strategy working? What's doing well? Are you reaching your target customer? Have you made sales? If so, do they fit into your target customer persona? And if they don't, then you really want to go back to number one and be like, okay, this is my ideal customer, but all of the people who are buying from me fit into this category. Why? Like, is my content speaking better to them? Do I want to target that category more heavily? Or do I want to reevaluate the content I'm putting out so that I can target my ideal customer instead?
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. That was a great question.
Yeah, that was good. We have a couple more. So what website building platforms do you recommend?
Also a good question. So I use Squarespace for mine. It was very intuitive to put together. I just needed, a minimum viable product to get out there as I started my business, and I was able to add to it and change it as I needed. So I like Squarespace, especially if you're smaller and only have maybe you're a service-based business. For e-commerce businesses, if you sell a product, Shopify is the leading website there. It's also really easy to create a blog on Shopify. So I recommend that for an e-commerce site. And then I work with WordPress with a lot of my clients who are bigger. They're service providers also. And content marketing is a huge part of their strategy. And so WordPress is really easy to manage a blog on. They have a lot of tools and plugins that work really well. So WordPress is another great one if you're looking to grow to that capacity, or if blog is a big part of your strategy. I think WordPress is a really strong one.
Okay, I really appreciate the detailed answers because it definitely helps opposed to Squarespace. And then we have another one. I'll just read the whole message.
Go ahead.
But I feel like standard keywords will be fairly straightforward, but maybe I'm wrong. What are some good methods to find or determine long tail keywords?
Another good one. Okay, so keyword research in itself is kind of a whole other topic to talk about, but some free tools that you can use. One is just a Google search. So similar to when you go to type something in and it will autofill for you, if you start typing in some variations of your keyword and just see what's suggested, those are other top searches. There's also websites like Answer the Public or Google Trends. You can look at a trending topic and see if it's growing or if it's shrinking, and if you should maybe explore that if it's growing. Let's see, Answer the Public. There's another one, I think it's called Ask Socrates or something along those lines. And you can put in a topic to those websites and they will basically give you a list of questions related to that topic, how you could frame a question, like questions that have been asked around that topic. And you can kind of see the different ways that you could frame that or the different directions you could take something in. So for example, like vegan muffins, if you put that in, you're going to get a whole host of different questions and terms you might not have thought of. So you can have like vegan muffin bakery, vegan muffin recipe, what makes vegan muffins like fluffy. So those are all different search terms and they're very different. And so it depends on what you offer and whether or not you want to give a vegan muffin recipe, or if you are, maybe you're actually an oven company. And so like what makes vegan muffins fluffy? Maybe it's having a convection oven. And so you can really extract what value you want to provide from the different types of search terms. So long-winded answer, you can use Google. You can use a website like Exploding Topics, or you can use an SEO keyword research software. I use SEMrush with my clients, but it is a paid software. So you don't need to get that fancy with tools, but you can, and they'll give you a full report with like keyword difficulty and search volume. And then you can just really see and dive into all that data if you're interested in that.
Do you feel like all those engines like update in real time? Because I could see that being something that's like rapidly changing with how much we're on technology and things like that.
Yeah, all of those should be like most up to date, especially Google, like they're keeping track of like by the minute search terms. The keyword research tools that are paid are updated. Things like Exploding Topics, you're not going to be able to get the data like the search volume or the difficulty of that keyword, but it is great for idea generation in the early phases as you just venture into this. You can also get a lot of keywords from your customers, your potential customers. What questions are they asking? What do they want to know? And then even if it's not going after a high search term or a high competition term, you're going to provide value with that type of content. So answering questions that you get is a great place to start.
Yeah, are there any other tips you might have for someone that's like very much at the basic level, has not done much at all with SEO or background, like just like maybe the first like 2 things you would have them think about in addition to like these goals?
Yeah. So once you have those 5 SEO elements, like your site is in good standing, going through these questions is going to help you like know where to focus your attention, but then the what of that content is really, you just got to start somewhere. So I would say try things. You can look at other accounts, either competitors or like similar accounts that you really like, and not copy, but like take inspiration from those. So maybe you notice that every Tuesday, your favorite skincare company posts a testimonial. Oh, maybe I want to post a testimonial for one of my clients. That's a great topic or content pillar that I could use. Another one would be if you have maybe that same skincare company has really great photos, but in the captions, they talk about the ingredients and tie it into wellness. Well, maybe one of the values of your company is promoting wellness. And so, how can your post convey value from your company while also tying into just what you stand for? So, like wellness overall, and maybe one of your content pillars, something you decide to do, is to have a completely non-salesy post every 2 days, and that is just talking about your value. And that's a way that you can meet your potential customers where they are and start to build that trust, and then kind of work them towards where you need them to be. And then again, just answering questions that you get, talking about your products, and seeing what the response is can help you guide of like where to start and where to go next.
So maybe even like surveys from, or like the polls that you can do on the different like Facebook and Instagram and things like that, just to see what people even want. So you can take that action. Cause I feel like you said it, like just start with something, right? That's probably the biggest thing is people just search and search and search and like productive procrastination, but they don't actually do it. So just start.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great suggestion. Not only does it boost engagement, but even really big accounts do it. They ask their followers or their customers what they want to know, what they want to see. And from the customer's perspective, they really like being valued. They like being asked, and it gives them the opportunity to speak up. So listening to your customers is also great. Again, in like answering their questions, but just asking them the type of content they like. If you're more of an entrepreneur and you sell a service, like maybe someone's really interested in just how you run your business, and that is when it's going to build your rapport. And so just leaning into maybe more lifestyle content over business related content, just try it and see what the result is. And if you like doing that type of content, it's really just a judgment call for you, because you don't ever want to be doing something you don't like doing. You just won't do it well and it won't perform well. So making sure that it's also something you like to do.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And you got a heart from Amy and a celebration from Amy.
I love it.
But yes, all good questions. So thank you for answering. Not long-winded at all. I think the details was great.
Of course. I'm going to move on just to make sure we get through everything, but there is time for questions at the end as well. So now we've thought a little bit about what content channels we want to go on, and hopefully you've chosen 1 or 2 that you feel really strongly about. But my goal here is to help you get the most out of your content effort through what I'm going to call an integrated strategy with repurposing content. So for one example, the way I use it in my own business is I had blogs as my primary content channel. And so if you take a look at one of my blogs, I wrote them focused around a keyword. So I started with some keyword research. I decided that I wanted to target this keyword. This search term is relevant to a service I offer, and I'm going to create some value around it. So I wrote out a blog post. Then I took that blog post, and what I was able to do is extract other types of content from the same information. So I created 2 to 3 short videos that I could post both as a TikTok and as an Instagram reel. I created an Instagram post about the same topic, and then I also did a LinkedIn post. So these are ways that I'm repurposing the same content. So it's not any more effort for me to come up with ideas or generate new topics. I'm just putting them into a different format. And so what we really want to do is take all of that hard work on your long form content, usually is what you're going to start with. So a blog, a YouTube video, a podcast, those are all long form content. And take advantage of all the effort you put into it and turn it into other supplementary forms of content. So for example, you can take a blog and we can turn it into 6 different things. We have our blog, We can make that an email newsletter. So maybe we shorten it and we send it out to our email list. We can take part of it as a caption for an Instagram post or multiple if you have different topics in there. We can turn it into a short video like a reel or a TikTok. Usually you can make multiple if you just pull different sections of the blog. You can get on your stories and just film yourself talking about it. So it becomes a discussion topic for your Instagram stories. Or 6, you can film a YouTube video, basically talking about the blog post. The blog kind of becomes a script for the video and you're just teaching, depending on what your blog was about. But for me, it would be teaching. And you can see all of the options we've now created, all the different content that we've created from just this one idea. So you put in the work in the beginning in the blog post, and all I do is pick and choose the different sections that I want to turn into other content. And then a big but, you do not have to do them all. And I don't want you to do them all. So I want you to only focus on maybe 2 or 3 channels to integrate your strategy on. So overall, you're just focusing on 2 or 3 channels, your primary channel, and then 1 or 2 secondary channels. So for example, if you have a blog, maybe you choose Instagram and TikTok, and you're going to integrate from the blog onto those 2 channels. And that's going to be manageable for you. You can always add in the future as your team grows, as your capacity increases, as you find other ways to integrate easily, or you see what's really working for you. Maybe you switch. So maybe blog is not driving sales or conversions for you, but Instagram, TikTok, and now you're going to try YouTube. So you can always rotate or switch and add later, but you really want to make sure what you're doing is quality and that it's converting. So you want to get results from your efforts. And that is what we're going to prioritize. And so while there's so many social platforms you can be on, you want to make sure that you're only on as many as you can handle and do effectively. So just some takeaways to think about. What I hope that you've gathered from my time talking is which 2 or 3 content channels, so Instagram, blog, YouTube, podcasts, which of those content channels are most relevant for your business, and how can you optimize your efforts to reach your audience? And so how you're going to answer that questions are some of the exercises we walked through. So thinking about your target customer, who they are and where they search for your product or service. Looking at that customer persona and using that framework of the questions, the who, what, where, when, and how. And then looking at yourself. So where are you spending your time creating content that could be repurposed? Are you sitting and posting blogs and then separately sitting and creating an entire Instagram content calendar? Could you be integrating those? And now you have just cut all of your effort and time in half. Where are you spending time creating content that isn't driving customers to your business? So do you sell, I'm just going to keep using the same example, financial services, and you've noticed that you post on Instagram, you put all the effort in there, but it's not really doing anything for your business. Maybe it's time to try a different channel. So again, being able to evaluate your efforts and yourself, what you enjoy doing, and just meeting your customers again where they are and trying to take them to where you want them. So if you didn't get a chance, I would take a screenshot here, just some questions to think about as you walk away from today. And I do want to take a few moments just to talk about what is next. So looking ahead, once you have your SEO in place, you've put together your content channels, you have a good strategy that you're confident with, where do you go from there? So we talked about SEO, looking at the health of your website. You can get more technical and advanced there, but really those 5 elements are what you want to start with, and just understanding how you're showing up online and if it's useful for the goals of your company. And then once you have SEO, you can move into content. So starting with the content calendar on that primary channel. What is your strategy to drive people to your site, whether that's blogs or social media or other digital content? And then how can I extract the most value from that by repurposing content onto other channels? So ideally, the most places that you can show up for your business and reach your target customer, the more people you're able to convert into paying customers. But we want to start in a manageable fashion. So amplifying your highest performing content across your main channels. And then once we have that basic foundation in place, then we're going to work on optimizing. So optimizing the content on your site and also optimizing your strategy to drive conversions. So once we've tried some things, how do we evaluate those strategies? And then what do we do once we have that data? What decisions are we looking to make? And so I have a course that I teach this in that we've extracted some of the content for that I've been put into the presentation today. But essentially what you're doing is set up. So those different SEO and content marketing elements, answering all those questions, understanding how to put a strong foundation in place for your business. And then we move on to strategy. So strategizing your content calendar, your main channels, putting that content together and seeing how it performs. And then from that initial push, how do we optimize and repeat this cycle so that it continues to perform well for you and maximize the conversions that you're getting? We only want to be creating content that is converting. So how can we post content that turns into sales? And so in the course, I do cover each of the modules and help you build your marketing foundation from the ground up or to amplify what you're already doing with step-by-step. You're taking action, you're actually putting these into place and then answering all of these questions for your business to make sure you're getting results. And then as Julia mentioned, I do have a big thank you for you for coming to this virtual event today. So if you head over to my website at luminariamarketing.com/course and just put your email in there, I'll get a notification and I'll send you the SEO writing guidelines document that I have. So it basically just outlines all of the SEO elements you need to include when writing a blog post. So in addition to those 5 SEO elements we talked about for your main website, there are specific things you should be doing in long form content like a blog that will help you rank in Google, drive targeted website traffic, and have those measurable results to make sure that all of your effort is actually converting into sales. And then included at the bottom of that document is just a little bonus of some sample calls to action that you can use for inspiration when you include them in your blogs. So I'm going to leave this up with the URL if you're interested, and then also open it up if there are any more questions.
Anyone have any questions? And then Gabrielle's website is in the chat box as well, so you can just directly click the link there. And then since that link is there, Gabrielle, do you mind going back and just walking really quick through that Screaming Frog download experience real quick? There was someone that wanted to hop back there.
Yes, I'm just going to go to my desktop. So I'm going to have to open it up again. So I'm going to open up Screaming Frog. And it's going to take a second because I closed it. Okay, so this is the main dashboard that you have, and you're going to type in your website up here in the search bar. Just the main domain, so you don't need the HTTPS or www. Just your domain, .com, .co, whatever it is. Hit start, and it's going to crawl your website. So whatever is existing on your site is what's going to show up here. And if pages that exist are not showing up, that's another red flag. So you want to go back and make sure that your website host or however you have created your website is properly set up.
And all those addresses are like those individual tabs that you would click on like a drop down, right? It's going to have every single thing outlined there.
It's actually going to be more than just what's on your navigation. So this should be every single page on your website that's accessible. So whether or not you link to it, if it exists on your domain, it should come up here.
Okay.
So I'm on this internal tab. You should default be on this internal tab. If you're not, you just want to go ahead and click internal, and then I want to export this internal one. So I'm just going to click export. I've chosen to have it export as an Excel. It's going to go to my desktop. So if you're not finding it, I would browse wherever you want it to appear in your computer.
It may look a little bit different on a Dell versus an Apple, potentially.
Potentially, yes. If you download to Excel, it should look the same. But I know on a Mac, you also have like numbers. So if you download as a CSV, it's going to look different.
Okay. And then Amy, did you have a question real quick?
Just found what my problem was, the type to switch to Excel. So good to go.
There you go. Yeah. And then it should look like this once you get inside.
Want to walk us through this whole thing again? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not kidding.
I was giggling earlier at one of the questions. I said, any questions? And she said, yeah, can she start from the beginning?
Yeah, that would have been me. I have a question. So I was able to, wait, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I was having the issue with I did Excel. It's still not coming up. Where is it? And I don't know what browse means. I don't know how to find browse. And
I would just check again. So if you go here up to export, it's going to tell you where it is right here. What does yours say?
Okay, hold on. Where did it go?
Michelle's our tech savvy one.
Yeah, I'm the one that's really good. Okay, it just says /user/Michelle.
So it's going to be in like the home folder of your laptop. So if you want to get it somewhere else, I would go browse.
Do I hit down? Do I just say /browse?
No, you should have a button down
Browse.
here.
Oh, okay. There, I see it. Now what?
Now, if you go to the square, you should have an option to pick somewhere on your computer that you might recognize better. So I would select desktop. It'll just pop right up on the front. But if you also know how to find downloads or something else, do you have a Mac?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I put it in my downloads and I save there instead, if it's not popping up on your
there we
desktop,
go.
if
Hold
you
on.
do
I figured
desktop.
it out.
You got it?
Well, kind of. I mean, I was still stuck on this, so I got to go back and watch everything else.
I love the honesty. I appreciate it.
I mean, I'm like sitting here trying to figure this out, a download, and I'm like, all the other stuff, I was like, I have no idea what was just said. I've got to have to rewatch it. You really did.
Let me know if you have questions.
A lot of info.
Yep, so we are recording, and I will be sending this out to everybody that signed up. So when it's available, it's going to probably take a day or so. That's about how long it takes, but I will be sending the recording to all of you. It's going to be on our YouTube channel. So you can watch it again. If you didn't take the screenshots of all of the things that she asked for the screenshots to be taken, you can pause the video and take a screenshot at that point as well.
Yes. Hopefully the screaming frog wasn't too big a hindrance, but I wanted you to be able to walk through it with me as much as possible.
I think it looks more intimidating because you only really click the export, it just like when you pull it up, whoa. But
Yeah.
no, that was great and you broke it down very well.
Yeah, you're actually just, I mean, you did a great job with so much detail and so much information. It's just, when someone is not as good at that miscellaneous stuff, I'm just trying to catch up. So, it'll be good just to watch it over again because it was good. Amy has a question.
No, Michelle, I just want you to know that I've rewatched yours 3 times. So Gabrielle was amazing, but I've watched yours 3 times. So you both are phenomenal human beings.
Well,
Thanks for sharing.
It just shows that we can't absorb it all at once when it's a category we don't know.
So we need professionals.
Yeah, Gabrielle, that was amazing.
Thank you. You guys were asking some very advanced questions too. So hopefully once you nail this down, then hit me up and we can move into more advanced topics.
Yeah. You're probably like, I can do this in my sleep now. Does anyone else have any other questions? Gabrielle, I think you were kind of at the end, right? We didn't have anything else.
We're at the end. Questions this is question time.
Short and sweet, guys. We got done around 8 o'clock. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, like Dawn said, you guys will receive the replay. You can go to the newsletter to find any of Gabrielle's info, and I'm sure we'll come out in the next one as well when we summarize this month's event. And our next event will be, well, the hiking group next week, but then the actual monthly event with a speaker will be June 17th, and that will be outdoors. So keep an eye out in the newsletter for information on that. And we thank you all very much for coming.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
You too.
So many
Bye,
claps.
thank you.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
everyone. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you so much. It was great to see everybody.
And I think we're still recording.